Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Become a Guest to apply. All right, today is a very special episode. I have on the line Kathy Chou, who is the Senior Vice President, SaaS Engineering at Nutanix. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. It's great to be here.
Oh my gosh, Kathy. So I'm happy to have you on the show. And I'm also happy to announce that you'll be one of the upcoming authors in our upcoming Mission Matters Business Leaders book release. And really, I'll just tell you, I'm thrilled to have you be part of the project.
Thank you. It's something that has always been a dream of mine to be able to publish. And so I'm super excited to be a part of the Mission Matters family.
Fantastic. And we're happy to have you. And just to get us kicked off here, Kathy, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Kathy, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Kathy, what mission matters to you?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm a woman in STEM, and I really believe in women in STEM who has integrated work and life. I'm a wife and mother of 4 sons and worked my entire time during that time, while also having a rewarding career leading organizational transformation for both go-to-market and engineering. And that's something that's a little unique about me, is that not only do I understand engineering deeply, but I understand sales. And that's a unique combination. And really, my mission is to motivate and inspire teams to do things they've never thought possible by creating cultures. And I really believe deeply in culture, a culture where you can be yourself, where you can take risks, when you can fail fast, where you can learn, grow, and develop, that allow you to foster innovation, change, inclusion, and belonging. And so that's my mission.
Yeah, it's awesome. And great to have you on the show again, and glad to have you on. And circling back to something that you said, and I think this is a good part for us to kind of start overall, is you do understand both sides. So to me, it's kind of like almost not fair. You get the engineering side of things, and you also get the go-to-market side of things on the sales and otherwise. Like how did all this start for you? Like, where did your career begin?
Well, it's funny. I think the career began when I was a young girl. I'll start there, because one thing I realized was that I loved math. It was just, I actually looked forward to math tests because I knew I would get it right, because you can double check your work. And I realized that was, at the time, I didn't think it was unusual until after high school graduation, ended up going to college and realized that there are very few people who were majoring in technical, STEM majors. And I majored in mechanical engineering, and again, took all the math, differential equations, linear algebra, and looked forward to all the tests that were there, because it was just super fun for me.
Wow.
But I realized that, even though I was very, very good at engineering, it really didn't suit my personality. My personality was very outgoing, and people would always say, "Have you sold things? You should go into sales." And so I ended up getting a master's in manufacturing systems engineering, which kind of took the engineering side of the house, but also married that with a more MBA type business curriculum. And that's where I started to understand the power of the business side. And, ended up getting an MBA to follow suit, started working at HP, worked there for 18 years, did many, many different functions, started more in the technical side, but then moved to different functions like marketing and procurement, IT, supply chain, left to do 2 startups. And then I ended up in going back to HP, and that's where I started my sales career. I really wanted to try that. And what was interesting about sales at that time was it was turning from an art to a science. These words like TAM, SOW, TAM stands for total addressable market. There's SAM, serviceable addressable market, share of wallet, SOW, where you can use actually machine learning and mathematical techniques to help you figure out where that next resource should be, or how much, share of that customer you have, or where do you want to go based on the demographics and where the industry verticals are, is very mathematical as far as an exercise. So I, in a sense, brought math to sales and learned a lot about that function. And I think the biggest compliment that was ever paid to me after I had my first role, I was running worldwide commercial volume sales at HP, was when someone thought I had carried a bag since the beginning, and I had never done that. So that's a little bit of the background of how I ended up going from engineering into go-to-market.
I want to stick in these early days a little bit longer because I know that you are one of your big passions as we've gotten to know each other is STEM, and specifically women in STEM. And so when you think about like your progression and how how your career transpired, there's other women out there that maybe have the same interest that you did, right? And they don't necessarily know how to break into the career. Maybe they like math or they like things just like you did, and you had that real, draw to it. Like, what kind of advice would you give to those to that next group of either entrepreneurs and or executives that are out there pursuing a career in STEM?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm very passionate about STEM in general. And, when I first graduated, which was a while ago, there weren't that many women in the C-suite or senior levels.
Mhm.
And certainly as far as technical, again, was not a majority, it was
Yeah.
maybe 20%, 25%. And it's sad to say, 25, 30 years later, that number has not increased substantially.
Mhm.
And I think about that all the time. I think about, why is it that women have not really advanced as much as I would have liked in 3 decades? And I think there are a bunch of factors. I think the first thing is, you need a good pipeline. And it starts even in high school. I say there's a lot of young girls who are really, really good at these, technical tracks, but maybe are discouraged from, maybe there aren't as many friends, maybe there aren't, they think about, maybe they want to have a family someday and they're not sure if they could have a career and doing those sorts of things. But I really highly encourage people to stick with their passion, especially if they're good at it. And
Mhm.
I have something that I call the sweet spot, which is where your passion meets your strength. And I've been fortunate to be able to find that because, I realized that, to fast forward, the go-to-market part of my career has
Mhm.
led me to engineering management. And that's what I really love is, am I a coder? No. Do I understand coders? Yes. Can I
Mhm.
get coders to do things they never thought they could do before? Yes. And that's my dream, is actually to get to that place. But I think, early career, especially women, you really do have to invest in yourself, find mentors, find sponsors, find people who can show you the way. And part of why I'm excited about amplifying my story through Mission Matters
Mhm.
is because I want to get my story out there, right? There's more people who need to understand that it can be done. And,
Mhm.
boy, I have 4 sons, pretty busy on the family life as well, and just how to balance that career. And sometimes I will say that STEM careers can be more conducive to work
Mhm.
life blend because you can work on your technical, you're not really saddled with that quarterly cadence that I learned about on the sales side. And you can really focus good quality time on innovation.
Mhm.
And so, but the combination of, really fueling your passion, finding mentors,
Mhm.
going through those years if you're raising a family, and realizing, hey, maybe a STEM career is conducive to that. And then if you're interested in engineering management, if you stick with it, you can get there. And
Mhm.
that part, I think you can drive a lot more scale around innovation that really moves the needle.
Mhm. Wonderful. So, Kathy, I want to spend a little bit of time today on maybe the content and some of the ideas that you'll propose in the upcoming book release. But just to let everybody know that's watching this, we're not going to spend too much time there, right? Because we're going to be bringing Kathy back on once the book is live, and we'll do a deep dive at that point into her writing and her ideas. But today we're gonna warm it up a little bit, scratch the surface, and definitely hopefully get you ready for that upcoming launch as we are as well over here. So Kathy, what type of things do you plan on proposing in the upcoming book? Like, just give us some high level ideas.
Yeah. Well, the focus is on how to transform an organization, which I
Mhm.
think is a pretty, shall I say, universal
Yeah.
thing that people want to do these days, especially if you think about now in the pandemic, the
Mhm.
future of work, how we work hybrid. And uh, my focus is actually around three pillars that people always talk about, but it's around people, process, and technology.
Mhm.
And when we talk about people, it's creating that vision and mission that people are inspired about and they want to follow. What's that North Star? How do you get people to work cross functionally?
Mhm.
When we have all these silos, how do we create a culture
Mhm.
that embraces diversity, equity,
Yeah.
creates a safe culture where you can feel included and where you belong
Yeah.
and have fun and do good? I also talk about process. What are these things that you need to do? Things like a listening tour. How do you
Mhm.
prioritize? I think that is funny. That word is used more often than not, but people really don't know how to do that.
Mhm.
Prioritization is really the critical process in which you want to do the right things at
Mhm.
the right time for the right constituents.
Yeah.
And I talk a little bit about that. And then about technology. How do we create a culture of
Mhm.
innovation? And by the way, I think a lot of people think innovation means creating that next big thing, right?
Mhm.
Reinventing the wheel, rocket science. It's not.
Mm.
Innovation can be in your day to day role. If you have something that you do every day, you can
Mm.
innovate by taking steps out of that process or changing the process.
Mhm.
And those are innovations as well. So you have to take credit for that. And really, things of what are certain techniques that we can make innovation a
Mhm.
daily activity versus something that you do episodically.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a high level teaser
Yeah.
about what I'll be talking about in my book.
Yeah, and I love this idea of innovation, being able to do it from the seat and from where you're at, right? Like when I was first introduced to that word, like intrapreneur, the idea that like you can innovate, you can create new things exactly where you're at. And I never really had a until I understood that word, I didn't really understand what that mindset was. But once you kind of think about that mindset versus maybe just kind of going with the flow, then you can really see when you step back, or I've been able to tell when you step back from an organization and look at the key players and look at where people are going, I feel like the clarity becomes much more so than otherwise.
Well, on that topic
Mhm.
specifically, I always use this phrase. It's quite easy to capture minds, right?
Mm.
It's academic.
Yeah.
You have a priority, you do the work, you measure the results, you get it done. Okay. And to me, that's table stakes.
Yeah.
The key is, how do you capture their hearts?
Mm.
And what I mean by that is it's much more than putting pen to paper and checking off a box and getting a priority done and doing a daily activity and going to your meetings.
Mm.
It's about really understanding the people, really understanding what makes them tick, as you say,
Mhm.
putting yourself in their shoes, really trying to find that beautiful balance between where you want to go from an organization
Mhm.
standpoint, but making the connection with that individual to
Mm.
that goal. How
Mm.
does that individual grow into that goal? How does
Mm.
that individual work with others where they feel they're part of a team, where they look forward to coming to work, where
Yeah.
they feel understood? And when you can do that, you can actually capture their hearts.
Mm.
And it's something that, sometimes it seems like a flippant phrase, but there's a lot of work that you put into it to get
Mhm.
it done. I don't think my job is done there. I've been working on it in my
Mhm.
long career. I continue to strive to reach that North Star around that, but it's
Mm.
something that I have invested very deeply in, and
Mm.
I've been able to do it with a lot of different companies. And I feel fortunate that I have had quite a bit of success in
Mhm.
being able to do that. And it sounds like a soft topic, but
Mhm.
if you capture the hearts of your team, you will blow by all of your objectives. Your results will come much faster. You
Yeah.
will have joy, you'll have laughter, you'll have fun. We spend so much of our waking hours at work, you got to have fun. So anyway, it's kind of a topic. It's a passion topic for me, but thank you for
Oh,
talking
and
about it.
and for me as well. And when I see that, and what you're saying, you said soft topic, but to me, I've just seen organizations and teams and things that I've been a part of, whether it's Mission Matters or otherwise. And when you got it, it's magic. To me, it's just magic. Like what you can get accomplished with resources, whether they're large or small. Like what you can get if you really have everybody on board. It's really a thing to see. So Kathy, I want to jump around here a bit. So you're, first off, I'll tell you, so ever since I've been connected with you on LinkedIn and you pop up on my feed, like, I'm like, what is Kathy doing now? Like I see all this news in the news pretty often, at least since we've been connected. I guess let's just start with joining Nutanix. Give us a little bit of the update and what transpired there.
Yes. Well, I want to back up a little bit,
Oh,
okay?
please.
Because I think in this, well, whatever you call it, the great resignation, in the
Yeah.
pandemic, there's a lot of people that are loose in the saddle and a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
changing jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about how I arrived at Nutanix first,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So I was working with VMware, and I gave myself a good 5 months from the time I left VMware to the time I joined Nutanix. And I want to go through the process that I went through.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I think a lot of people, some people may feel a little anxious, right? Oh, I don't have a job. What am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I really had to constantly remind myself that this was a very treasured time. First, I was able to spend a lot more time with my aging parents, and that's time you will never get back. So for some people, it might be your kids. It could be a hobby you're doing. It could be your parents, whatever it could be. You could take a trip that you've always wanted to do, but really kind of investing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I did was, and by the way, looking for a job can become a full-time job.
Yeah.
What I did was I ended up talking to over 25 companies,
Mm-hmm.
large, small. I talked to big consulting firms. I talked to companies well out of my wheelhouse that actually had contacted me through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, I had never really focused on LinkedIn, but I did update my profile, and I was open, said I was open to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I got so many pings. Now, in the past, I would ignore all of them. But this time I said, you know what? Let me say yes. Let me say
Mm-hmm.
yes. I ended up talking to a big media company, and I said, media? I have no experience in media. What they were interested in was my SaaS experience, because if you think about media, right, they have to go from print to on the web and all
Yeah.
of what they have to do, and how do they deal with social media.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, wow, that's relevant. I talked to big companies, huge companies, small companies, things in the go-to-market domain, things in the engineering domain. And so what I learned in the process was it's important to build your network. And that's something that I've never done that well. And I've made a lot of new contacts in many different companies. And long story short, when I really started to say, okay, I've been playing around for some time, I've got to really settle down, I looked for four things, and they're pretty generic. Okay, first was this a meaty role? Is this a role that I'm going to grow in? I will learn something, I will grow. I'll have the opportunity to use my skill set. Second thing I was looking for was a company that was growing. And not because I had been, I'd been at some very large companies like HP and with single digit growth. And I really was looking for something a little more in the double digits. I was looking for a culture that, one, I could influence, but also really was a culture that I felt comfortable in. And that's always a culture that talks about people. Okay, people first. And then I was looking for leadership and a boss that I really could grow with. And it so happened that I knew the CEO of Nutanix. I worked for him, Rajiv Ramaswamy, at VMware, and we had developed a great relationship. And you can't underscore enough the importance of relationships. So I came in, it checked all of those four boxes. I've now been here for almost 10 months. And really, honestly, I can say with, from the bottom of my heart,
Hmm.
that this has been a dream job for me. I feel that I've been able to apply all of my skill sets, be my true self, move the needle at a time where Nutanix needs it the most, because we are in a transition as well.
Hmm.
And so my ability to transform organizations, to show how we can do it first,
Hmm.
hopefully can be leveraged to Nutanix as well.
Ah, it's great. It's a great story, and to see to see you find, as you said, your dream job at this point in your career, and also to find that cultural fit. I mean, it's an amazing thing. And I think you kind of addressed part of my question, but I'll just ask you if you want to expand on it anymore, with your process, your 4-part process that you went through. But there are a lot of people out there that are shifting careers and focuses. Anything I'll draw out one thing that I just got from what you mentioned as well, which was to not to leverage and to really use LinkedIn and be open. Is there anything else you'd care to add to any of what you said, just in general, for somebody that is out there kind of in that executive role and senior executive role, and they're kind of in that in between phase, and or thinking about looking at other opportunities? Was there anything else that you found out there when you were out there searching, let's say?
Yeah, well, first of all, I said I talked to 25 companies. I probably talked to over, I want to say 150 people.
Oh, wow.
And when, yeah, because when you invest
Yeah.
and you kind of go down an interview path, you're
Mhm.
talking to at least 6 to 10 people at a
Yeah.
pop. And I had many of those types of conversations. And, every time you have a chance to meet someone new, it's
Mhm.
a golden opportunity. One, to build a new contact, but two,
Mhm.
to learn something, right, about
Mhm.
yourself, and to learn something about them. And I can't underscore enough. And by the way,
Mhm.
almost all of these were Zoom meetings, because, right, we're
Mhm.
still in this time frame. Maybe very, very few were in person, but even the few in person meetings I had,
Mhm.
you kind of get that
Mhm.
kind of excitement again to be somewhere, and
Mhm.
experience a new place. The other thing, though, is in the time that I took the opportunity to learn, to polish up some of my
Mhm.
own skill set, right? So SaaS is very hot, and
Mhm.
an area where everyone is striving to get to. But, I wanted to learn more about new things. The metaverse was something that was really hot. And I said, I want to learn more about what that is. Now,
Mhm.
does that have direct connection to what I do today? No, but it
Mhm.
certainly makes me more of an interesting person to talk to, and more knowledgeable, because everywhere you turn, you hear everyone just, it's that popular kind of fad word right now is metaverse,
Mhm.
and how do we get that going. But that learning, this lifelong
Mhm.
learning, is important as well. And then really being true on what you want. I think a lot of times when people are looking for jobs, they're always
Mhm.
looked at for the last job they had.
Yeah.
Right. And so the last job, it's funny, at VMware, I had both jobs. I was running engineering, and then I did sales strategy and operations. If
Mhm.
I look at most of the job inquiries about me, they were
Mhm.
all about the sale. A lot of them were about sales. A lot of
Mhm.
them were about the sales. And I really want to tell people that, hey, you're much more than your last job. And
Mhm.
so, really make sure that when you interview with people, that you also communicate well
Mhm.
around everything that you can deliver. And sometimes, I talk about things that are not job related, like volunteer
Mhm.
experience, because that can also help showcase some skill sets that maybe you haven't been able to prove out in a
Mhm.
job, but that you have. So really, I learned that I was able to showcase all of
Mhm.
who I am, 360 degrees,
Yeah.
in these interviews.
Oh, that's great. And I think it's great advice. And I think that it give for some out there, I feel like I get some hope from it. It just to understand that as you kind of go down these paths, that you can at the end of it, end up where you're supposed to be. So for example, what you found at your dream role at Nutanix, and to have that partnership there as you move into next levels of your career, I think it's amazing. And speaking of some more announcements, I mean, I hate to make this sound like a LinkedIn advertisement, because it's not, but that is where I get my news, or a lot of my news. So I also saw that you recently joined on as a board member for IonQ. So what does this mean for you?
Yes. So first of all, IonQ is the first pure play quantum computing company that has gone public.
Mhm.
And it is and has been always a dream of mine to serve on a public company board. And it's funny, I look back and say, when people look at their careers,
Mhm.
you sometimes wonder, did I take the right path? I went through all of these different changes and all of
Mhm.
that. And, leaving VMware and joining Nutanix, I think was the impetus to help me get this board seat. What
Mhm.
they were looking for was someone who had a technology background, but also someone who was, quote unquote, an
Mhm.
athlete, who had go to market experience as well.
Yeah.
And I have found that that combination of experience set was a perfect match for what they were
Mhm.
looking for. Now, would I ever have dreamed that I would be on the public board of what I call leading bleeding edge technology as such
Yeah.
as quantum computing? Never. And I've always been fascinated by technology. When I was in undergrad, I focused on robotics because
Mm.
robotics was very cool and neat at that time. In my first job, I was able to program our first robotics line. So that was so fun to be able to do that and be kind of on the leading edge. With quantum computing, it is so nascent. It's been around for some time and it'll be around for many years hence, but
Mm.
it's still looking for, an enterprise application. The government has really embraced it, but what is that key killer app for quantum computing? The
Mm.
cool thing about IonQ that attracted me as well was it has agreements with AWS,
Mhm.
Azure, and GCP. So, come on, those are the top three cloud companies in the world. And if they thought IonQ was something interesting and a cool company to partner with, well, that they must be onto something. And being my first public board, you often wonder, since it is my first, will I be able to contribute? And I did
Mm.
ask about the collegiality of the board, and it again has been something that has exceeded my expectations.
Mm.
Such a wonderful board, such collegiality, and one where there's a lot of questions that need to be answered because it is
Mhm.
such a, we're still in the earlier stages.
Mhm.
How do you set up the go to market? What is the channel strategy? How do you solidify the roadmap? What is the roadmap? How do you build uh, the production strategy? How do you make and market this capability that has and needs applicability in our day-to-day lives? And those
Mhm.
are all the questions that quantum computing is trying to answer right now. And I just couldn't be luckier and more fortunate to be on a leading bleeding edge company that can hopefully,
Mhm.
cross fingers, change the world. So it just fills my heart to be able to do that.
Oh, it's amazing. I love it. And I love bringing this story to our audience. And it's just such a success story, in my opinion. And I look forward to hearing more from you as well. But have to ask, I know you're a busy woman, lots going on the plate. What's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for your career?
Yeah, it's funny. I really feel it's funny. For most of my career, it was
Mhm.
always the what's next. I'm
Yeah.
striving for this. I'm striving for that. And I think right now I'm in a job that I absolutely love. My husband,
Yeah.
I think, gets tired of me coming home and saying, I had another great day. I love my team. I have always aspired to be on a public company board. I'm
Mhm.
there. I just started. I have a wonderful family and very, very involved with the
Mm.
family. And we actually are having a family reunion in New York next week.
Wow.
And then in my volunteer life, I'm doing a lot of things with Stanford, with Santa
Mm.
Clara, with Baylor University, and with the Asian Pacific Fund. We just had our gala last week where I was on the stage for Fund to Need. There's a lot of vulnerable
Mm.
AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander
Mm.
people in the Bay Area. It's really not well known, and so those are my passions. And I think what I say, what's next for me is, at least for right now, for the next couple of years,
Yeah.
I want to excel at everything that I'm already doing.
Mm.
I don't think any more new things are needed. I really want to make a difference. That's the key. I want
Mhm.
to win over the minds and hearts of all of the people that I deal with every day, whether it
Mhm.
be on the volunteer front, at the work front, in this new board, in the community, and just really make a difference for others. I think
Yeah.
that's my goal.
Oh, it's great. Great story. So Kathy, if first off, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I can't wait till the next time we get to work together. When the book is live, we'll be bringing you back on the show, of course, so that we can do a deep dive into your writing. I know today we just kind of gave a little teaser, which is all good. But that being said, if somebody wants to follow up and just to follow your work in general, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I know you've talked to me about this. I am not very good at promoting myself. I do a few LinkedIn things. LinkedIn would be the easiest. I mean, right now, I do check LinkedIn more often than I did before. I
Yeah.
have to admit, someone yelled at me and said, "Do you ever check your LinkedIn?" Well, now I've learned. I'm a believer, but that would probably be the best way. And really, the reason and the impetus for writing this book is to scale a little bit so that I can have more people hopefully learn a little bit. I'm just one person, but hopefully there may be, if there's one nugget someone else can pick up from me, that my job is done. And that would be the best way.
Perfect. And we'll be sure to put, the link in the show notes so that our audience can just click on the link and check out your profile. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging in an episode or listening to us, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and having them share their mission, their life experiences, really the stories behind it, and what we can all learn and gain from that so we all grow together. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or engaging or meaningful to you, hit that subscribe button because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line and we don't want you to miss a thing. Kathy, really, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. This was a delight.